Power for Living with Bishop Dale C.Bronner.
Today, the Ten Commandments suffer with what I call familiarity. We know them so well that we hardly know them at all. And the question is, how did we get away from the commandments? How on earth did we get away from the commandments? The renowned preacher and author George Buttrick, he came upon a farmer one day who had just retrieved a lost sheep. And Buttrick asked the farmer how the sheep wander away. And the farmer answered, they just nibbled themselves lost. They just nibbled themselves lost. They're just eating and they're just wandering, and they go from one patch of grass to another patch of grass to another patch, and they nibble themselves lost. I know sheep today who are eating the blessings of God, and they are nibbling themselves lost, and they wake up in a field somewhere. And you know how they do that? How they get lost? It's because they were so busy nibbling, eating the provisions and enjoying the blessings of God, they never looked up to thank the God from whom all blessings flow. And as long as you look at God, God becomes our anchor. He becomes our North Star that keeps us grounded, that keeps us located. But as long as you're looking down here on the earth in carnality, trying to see a relationship that you can finagle, somebody else that you can get over on, somebody else that you can bring into your network and manipulate, and all of this, as long as you are looking at things that are dirty and earthy and carnal and sensual, and you're not looking up, lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be ye lifted up, ye everlasting doors, and then the King of glory shall come in. And when we begin to then look up and lift up, then you'll see the God from whom all blessings flow. It is the same as a person. I had one of my relatives that was out on the ocean, and out on a float, and just lying there on a beautiful, sunny, unclouded day. And little did they know that they were drifting further and further out, and they couldn't feel it. They thought they were still maybe 30 or 40 feet away from the shore. And when they looked up, they couldn't see land. Panic ensued. And here's the question: how did I get out here? It's the same thing that happens every time that you go. Have you ever been in a fancy restaurant on top of a building, you know, and it has a revolving floor, and it makes a revolution perhaps one hour, and it's turning so slowly that you don't even realize that you're being turned. See, the devil's greatest virtue is patience. And if he can turn you away from God's law little by little, just a little bit. Our politicians, when they make laws, if they made laws drastically where they are taking it away all at once, we would put up a great fight. But they know if they do it little by little. So if they're going to take away a tax benefit, guess what they'll do? They'll have a 5-year phase out, where you can only claim 80% this first year, and then 60% the next one, and then 40% here, and then 20% here, and then it's phased out. And if they do it gradually, nobody will ever notice. I had a friend, pastors a powerful church today. When he first went into his church, the podium was not centered in the church. It was over to the right side. And so he immediately took the podium from the right side and brought it to the center. Why did he do that? The head deacon came. And he said, excuse me, pastor, this podium belongs over here. And he had to drag it back over there and had to preach from the right-hand side where the podium was. Here's what my friend did. He took the podium and literally every week he moved it 1 inch. It took him nearly a year for him to get the thing to the center of the church. But nobody noticed, because it was gradual. See, when the first time that he did it, it was all of a sudden. But he did it gradually. It's amazing how you can wake up and find your life in such degeneration and debauchery, and you wonder, how did I get here? How did I leave my simple innocence of where I really was in love with God, and now I have come to sleeping around, and I've done things that I never thought that I would do? How in the world, how did I get here? How did I get here? And I started off so innocent, so passionately in love with God, and I never thought that that could have happened to me. I guarantee you this, it didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual thing. See, the devil gets us to do it gradually. It's just miss one here, and then miss one there, and then the next thing you know, you're totally out of fellowship, and you realize it's been a long time. So he does his things gradually, and that's how we nibble ourselves, and we've got a whole society today that has nibbled itself away from the law of God to give us order in our relationship. We're in a love relationship with God, and God is saying, listen, if this relationship is going to work, we're going to have certain rules by which we are respected. And God has given us the first one and said, listen, I'm the Lord your God. Before you can lay down the law, you must establish your authority, because unrecognized authority is no authority at all. And so if you've got somebody that just walks in your life one day and just come in and say, you know what, I've got some boxes over there. Go over there and move these boxes and put them over here in this place. Your first question is, who are you? You're not my boss. You're not my mama. You're not my daddy. Who are you to tell me? So when God starts off, he starts this thing off telling us, I am the Lord your God, the God who brought you out of the land of Egypt and out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other God before me. And God establishes his authority. He's essentially saying to us, I am the eternal parent. I'm the parent of humanity. And he establishes his authority. It is the same way that when a parent lays down the law in the home, we said, listen, I'm the one that birthed you. I sat up with you when you were sick at night. I had to wipe your nose. I had to bathe you. I'm paying all of your bills. I'm feeding you. And listen, I told you to take the trash out. You gonna take the trash out. But you have to establish your authority by reminding them, I brought you into this world, and I will take you out of this world. I am the Lord thy God, little L, little g. You have to establish your authority. You have to establish your authority. And so I think that the commandments suffer from bad press because somebody has convinced us that these laws have been imposed on us in order to keep us from enjoying life. Some people are under the impression that the laws of the church, the biblical laws, are to do nothing but impose guilt on us. And in order to not live under guilt, then they redefine what it is. You can't redefine something that God has said that it is. He's the manufacturer. And if God manufactured something and said that this is a car, you can't call it a scooter. I mean, if he manufactures something, he's the one that sets the definition. He knows what it is. He's the creator. He's created it. God created marriage. He knows what it is. He defines it. And so let God be God. And so these laws are intended to make the road of life smoother and the journey less complicated and the destination more certain. So the commandments are actually your best friend. And so I tell people that if your enemies are the first people to tell you the truth about yourself, you don't have any friends. Because a real friend will let you know. When you got a real friend, they are not infatuated with who you are and how other people see you. They're just going to tell you the truth about yourself. That's what a real friend does. They do it in love. They're not trying to hurt you. They're trying to help you. They're trying to protect you. They're trying to bless you. And so the law was given to bless and not to frustrate. And the walls that the laws erect were intended not to prevent our traveling into fields of pleasure, but to protect us and to prevent the pain and the destruction that, from getting to us. But because the law reveals our shortcomings, they actually prepare us to receive the grace that has already been prepared for us. The law shows us that we can't keep the law, and it reveals to us our great need for grace. I think it's designed so that it keeps us from self-righteousness. See, there's a difference between self-righteousness and then the robe of righteousness that is provided by Jesus Christ. Righteousness is not something that you earn. Righteousness is a free gift of God's grace into your life. You're not righteous because you've kept all of the law, because the Bible says if you offend the law in one area, you're guilty of breaking them all. So it doesn't do us any good for us to say that, you know, I'm better than so-and-so. No, no, no. You have broken the law. I was just in Ohio this past week, and a dear lady leaned over to me, and she said these words to me. And she was a lady with an intimidating presence. She's 6'2", barefooted. And she had on heels, so I had to look up to her. We were actually standing. And she said these words to me. She said, I asked God, why didn't he just kill the devil? And God told her, he said, I can't. And then she volunteered. She said, well, why don't you let me kill him? And this is what the Lord said to her. The Lord said, because I need him. And he said, man must have a free moral choice. He said, because I will never be locked in heaven again with a traitor. You see, God wants the folks that choose to be with him not because he made them be with him, but because they saw good and evil and they chose good. It's one thing when you have a child, because, you know, we had a situation. I had to bring encouragement to a little boy that was adopted. And there he was suffering because he was adopted, and he was in a family where there were blood children that were born to that mother and father. And he told me that they would pick at him and make fun of him because he was the adopted son. And I put my arms around him. And I said to him, I said, they're just jealous of you because their mama and daddy were stuck with them, but they chose you. And it changed something in his whole perception to realize that I was chosen. And it's something, I don't want somebody to be with me because they feel like they've got to be with me. I want them to choose to be with me. I'm not going to hold them hostage in a relationship. I want them to be with me because they choose to be with me. And so it was God's way of saying that I need the devil to give them a choice, because I'm not ever going to have a traitor locked up in my camp where I'll have to put them out again. I'm going to know this time on the front end, you're not going to slip in. No traitors will be able to get here. He said, I'm going to know their heart because I'm going to prove them. They're going to trip themselves up and mess themselves before they get here. It is amazing how God is able to give us a law for some things. And he said, listen, the Lord our God, you know, is just one, and thou shalt have no other gods before me. No other God before me. Just one God, just one God, just one God. And I'm so grateful for the one God that he is. You see, the 10 Commandments are the laws of the heart. They're the laws of the heart, not the laws of the commonwealth. They're the laws that are intended to lead to a fullness of life and not simply a well-ordered life. The 10 Commandments, when you really think about it, the 10 Commandments are not statutes, because statutes indicate a punishment for disobeying them, and the 10 Commandments don't indicate a punishment for disobeying them. The 10 Commandments are referred to as the Decalogue. The Decalogue means the 10 words or the 10 sayings or the 10 declarations. This is what God declared. And see, this came at a time when Israel had a whole lot of gods. Israel was used to being in a society where there were gods. You know, Abraham came from a family of pagan people that worshiped the God of the moon and God of the sun. They have all of these different types of God. But so this notion of one God was something that grew very slowly in a Hebrew consciousness. Because if you remember Jacob's wife Rachel, when he married his uncle's child, his mother's brother's daughter, Jacob and Rachel. And they were together. And so after Jacob had served there for those years for his wife Rachel and Leah, he left to go back to his hometown. And when they left, the daughter Rachel stole her daddy's gods and put them in her bag. And he came looking for them, and she had them in the pouch that was on the animal that she was on. And you know, women are sneaky.